Hello, welcome, namaste, everybody. I bow in gratitude to those of you joining me in the room, to those of you joining me on Zoom, and to those of you listening to the recording afterward. Welcome to a little Dharma talk that I like to call Living from the Heart. All about this extraordinary journey of 18 inches, which can sometimes take many lifetimes simply to travel from the head to the heart. And I was thinking about the Dharma the other day when I came across a quote from the French author André Gide, which goes, "Everything has already been said. But since no one was listening, we have to start again." Everything has already been said, but since no one was listening, we have to start again. This is the thing about wisdom teachings. We have to learn them again and again and again. And we find throughout time and throughout history, the same teachings are repeated again and again and again. And nothing I'm going to say right now is new. Everything has already been said many times before. But we have yet, as a human race, to fully integrate the teachings of the great masters. Because if we did integrate the great wisdom teachings that tell us not to harm others and that tell us to live from a place of inner peace and compassionate love, then we wouldn't be in a world with violence, with war, genocide, and environmental destruction. So until we are all living at peace, we'll have to return to the Dharma and to the teachings again and again. Shantideva, one of the great masters that we often return to again and again for his incredible work, The Way of the Bodhisattva, he opens this work with the following lines. "Here I shall say nothing that has not been said before. And in the art of prosody, I have no skill. I therefore have no thought that this might be of benefit to others. I write it only to habituate my mind. My faith will thus be strengthened for a little while, that I might grow accustomed to this virtuous way. But others who now chance upon my words may profit also, equal to myself in fortune." So here we have an 8th century monk and sage who opens up his incredible body of work with nothing, I will say here, has not been said before. So this is a wonderful way to approach the Dharma. First of all, as someone sharing the Dharma, I come from a place of deep humility. Nothing that I teach right now is created by me. I have been inspired by the great masters, Lao Tzu and Chuangzi, and the great texts of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the Buddha's Diamond Sutras, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. And I don't lay any claim to the Dharma, any claim to these teachings, or even have any sort of self-inflated idea about my own abilities to expound upon these truths. I'm sharing what has worked for me in hopes for you to discover what might work for you. Chogyam Trungpa describes all spiritual teachings as like being handed raw metal. It is up to you to warm, hammer, and shape the metal, and then you can wear it as a nice necklace, as a nice amulet. Even the Buddha says, Ehipassiko, see for yourself. Do not take any of these teachings as truth. Verify for yourself if it is true. And like Shanti Deva, I hope that others are inspired. I do see my life purpose in this world as to bring more love into it. And I hope to leave behind a body of work that inspires all sentient beings to live from a place of love and compassion. So everything has already been said, but since no one was listening, we have to start again. And a big reason many people aren't listening is because we can't listen. We don't fully understand what it is that we are hearing and what it is that we are listening to. And this is quite obvious. If the mind is not ready, there's nothing the teacher can do to educate the student or the disciple. We aren't listening because our mind is distracted in a million other places, and we aren't bringing discipline to our discipleship. But at the same time, if, for example, I was speaking in Chinese and you do not speak Chinese, you wouldn't understand a single word that I am saying. And many spiritual teachings are like that. I've attended countless spiritual lectures where I didn't understand a single thing that the speaker was saying. Often years pass before I finally get the gist of what I was being told years ago. And that's the incredible thing about spiritual teaching. You could pick up a spiritual book and read it and not understand a single thing. Later, as you are walking by your bookshelf 10 years later, you read it and suddenly every single word speaks to your very soul. So it takes time. You really have to honor where you are on the path. And as you are seeing for yourself whether or not these teachings work for you, give it time. Practice some patience. Don't just reject it outright. Many of these words have to be chewed on and mulled over and digested for us to fully integrate it into our own understanding and our own knowing. There's so many concepts and ideas on the spiritual path that at first, when I first heard them, I outright rejected them. And it's taken many years, and I finally have come around to so much. So I encourage you as we embrace this great mystery of living and mystery of being, as you hear different ways of being and wisdom teachings that have been passed down for millennia, if it sounds like a bunch of nonsense to you, give it time, let it marinate. Because fundamentally, the Dharma is right here. There's nothing we even need to fully listen to. We just need to begin to pay attention. In the same way that if I was speaking in Chinese, you wouldn't understand a single word I'm saying if you do not speak Chinese. Well, the Dharma is speaking to us all the time, but we have yet to learn its language. Thomas Keating put it this way: the Dharma exists everywhere. It exists everywhere, regardless of place, culture, creed, language, or race. Therefore, as I talk to you now, it isn't a matter of having you understand or listen to my Dharma. The Dharma is not something that belongs to any one person. It belongs to anyone who attains it. It is unbiased and unblemished. It is something unborn and imperishable. It is the condition of each of you right now. All things, including yourself, are the Dharma. Since each of you is the Dharma itself, there is the possibility that here, right now, without resorting to any ways or means, you yourself can directly verify this. The Dharma is everywhere. It's to be found in the clouds in the sky and the flowers blooming on the earth. I often return to the haiku by Zen Master Basho, where he writes, "The church bells have stopped ringing, but I still hear the sound coming from the flowers." The Dharma, the flowers are always speaking to us. But do we actually hear it? Can we actually hear it? Have we developed a tame and calm mind that is fully able to hear the truth of the Dharma that is both outside of us and inside of us? So I like to start each talk with a poem of my own as a lead into this week's topic. And we'll close with a short meditation and have some time at the end for question and answer. And today's poem is called Our Day is Not Complete. Our day is not complete until we reflect on what matters, on why we are here, and how our work of love has transformed the world and ourselves. Our day is not complete unless we checked inside our ribs for the beautiful beating heart that sends reminders to live and forgive, to be compassionate and to be there, which is here. Our day is not complete without an inner quieting, or at least an attempt to settle the mind, discover another side to our moon, to find an abiding calm, like still waters washing over us. No, our day is not complete if we didn't at least offer our soul to the fires of loss, get lost in our rainbow dreams, and make a commitment to be with truth and let go of all that stands in the way of joy. So, as the day winds down and as the moon reflects the light of the sun, now is our chance to reflect on what life means to us and how we can better live from a place of love and live from a place of the heart. And our topic for this week is on this basic idea that what we think, we become. And I'd like to open up with a story. One day, a lumberjack is working in the forest, and after a few hours, he gets tired, so sits at the roots of a tree and leans against it. After a few moments, he thinks to himself, wow, it'd be so nice to have a couch here. Then I could lie down on something much more comfortably. Suddenly, a couch appears right there in front of him. So he lies down on the couch and thinks, wow, this is really comfortable. Wouldn't it be great if I had a glass of ice cold water too? Suddenly, in his hand, a glass of ice cold water appears and he drinks it. So the lumberjack thinks, wow, this is so incredible. Whatever I think happens, happens to me. This is almost too good to be true. I wonder what would happen if a tiger appeared. Suddenly, a tiger appeared and ate him. So, not quite a punchline there. Again, it's just a story. And the lesson that we can take from this story is that we are what we think, and what we think we will become. If we think positive thoughts, good things will happen to us. Negative thoughts will consume us. Our thoughts have the capacity to shape our world. We live in a world of thoughts and our own thinking. Our thoughts can make us happy and they can make us sad. So when Mark Twain said that the worst thing in my life never actually happened, the worst things in our life never actually happen because the mind can conjure up all sorts of disasters and bad things happening to us. And if you have ever dealt with anxiety, you know how good anxiety is at generating all sorts of nightmare situations that could potentially happen to us. But rarely do they. So much of our spiritual practice, believe it or not, is working on our thoughts. So much of Eastern traditions, like Buddhism and like the yogic tradition, are all ways to deal with our thoughts. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is a psychology textbook. 2000 years before people say that psychology was invented, we have an incredible guidebook that says your role and this path of yoga is to calm the mind. And in this practice of calming the mind, you will encounter all sorts of obstacles and neuroses that prevent the mind from becoming calm. And here's an 8-step path that you can take in order to fully tame and calm the mind. So, working with our thoughts is an essential part of the path. So, there's a number of ways that we can work with our thoughts. And the first is to simply notice. Notice how much time we spend thinking. Endless, ruminative, chronic, non-stop thinking. When one monk was asked to describe Western civilization, he said, lost in thought. This is the modus operandi for so many people. We live from the shoulders up. We aren't in touch with the intuition in our bodies, with our sensations in the bodies, with our breath, with our heart. And we live caught up in our own thoughts, endlessly believing everything that we think, and continuously running storylines that do not make us happy and pull us out of the present moment. So, this is our world. Our thoughts form our reality, and that world could very well be a prison. There is a story of two ex-prisoners of war who meet after many years. When the first one asks, have you forgiven your captors yet? The second man answers, no, never. Well, then the first man replies, they still have you in prison. So that's the first step. Simply to notice without judgment, notice how much time you spend thinking, caught up in your own thoughts, and running all your storylines. And next, we can note the nature of our thoughts, which tend to be fairly self-serving. Our thoughts tend to be a series of likes and dislikes. We go about our entire day thinking, I like this, I don't like this. I like this, I don't like that. When you go down to your favorite restaurant and your waiter hands you a menu, you scan through the menu and you think, want, don't want, don't want, don't want, don't want, don't want, want. Much of our thinking mind is caught up in judging this world and dividing it into categories of likes and dislikes. And we spend most of our time running after the things that we want and running away from the things that we don't want. And as we notice the nature of our thoughts, we can also check in if this strategy is working. If constantly running after the things that we want and running away from the things that we don't want, because in theory, getting what we want is going to lead to happiness and getting what we don't want is going to lead to suffering, we should probably check in to see if the strategy is actually working. Are we any happier spending all of our time running after what we want and running away from what we don't want? And in this division of likes and dislikes, wants and not wants, we can also recognize the harm that this creates. When I don't like this turns into I don't like you. I don't like me. I don't like these parts of you. I don't like these parts of me. There's a famous story where Zen master Seong San was asked, where do atomic bombs come from? And he said, that's simple. Atomic bombs come from the mind that likes this and doesn't like that. So often when we talk about cultivating love and how important it is to creating a peaceful world, we have to recognize that many people who do violence to others love something. They love their family, they love their country, they love their community, but they don't like the other country, the other community. So atomic bombs comes from liking this, wanting to protect this, whatever that may be, your town, your village, your country, your state, your religion, your belief system, liking this and not liking that country, that belief system, that way of being, that form of government. And this is where much violence arises from people who like this aspect of reality, but don't like this aspect of reality and want either the things that they don't want to completely conform into the things that they do want or to be eradicated altogether. And this is how we wage war against others. And this is how we wage war against ourselves. There are parts of ourselves that we like, and there are parts of ourselves that we don't like. So I love the John Wellwood quote: "Who is it that's unhappy? The one who finds fault." And when I first heard this, I immediately attributed it to being in intimate relationships. We have this idea that you can be happy or you can be right. That in order to get along with another human being, we have to let go of our need to be right all of the time and rest in a level of comfort and connection that recognizes differences of opinion. And in relationships, it's often very hard to step out of our own worldview, our own point of view, and see another way of living and being in the world. So there's a famous trickster in the ancient text known as Nasruddin. And there's a story where Nasruddin goes to get piano lessons. And he asks the piano teacher how much the lessons cost. And he says, well, the first lesson is $20, and every lesson after that is $10. So Nasruddin thinks about this for a little bit and says, I'd like to start with the second lesson. And I love this story because, of course, it reflects how we are often trying to use and manipulate other people in order to get what we want. And there's a continuation of that story that Nasruddin agrees to the first piano lesson being $20. So they agree to meet at Nasruddin's house at a certain time on a certain day. Now, Nasruddin, he's not the most focused individual, so he completely forgets what time it is, and he falls asleep. And when the piano teacher comes to Nasruddin's house, he bangs on the door, but nobody answers. So the piano teacher, being somewhat irate, writes "idiot" on a piece of paper and puts it on the door. A couple hours later, Nasruddin gets up, realizes he missed his piano lessons. He opens the door, sees the note, and comes rushing over to the piano teacher's house. And when he gets there, he says, I'm sorry I'm late, but as soon as I saw your note on my door and I saw your name on that note, I was reminded to come to your house. So it's never us, right? We're never the ones in the wrong. It's always somebody else. It's always someone else that we can blame. So it's not easy to take responsibility for our own stuff. The point is, who is it that is unhappy? The one who finds fault. The one who finds fault in others and their intimate partners, the one who finds fault in themselves, and the one who finds fault in others. This is where the mind comes in. It judges everything that it sees. It divides up everything that it sees into good and bad, beautiful and ugly, likes and dislikes, wants and not wants, or craving and aversion. So we have to look at our own egoic nature of the mind, how it divides everything up into, does this serve me or does this not serve me? And we think about what might it look like to step outside of this perspective. So noticing the nature of our thoughts and noticing what the mind often does, eventually we become aware of what are known as our samskaras, the latent impressions of the mind. The general metaphor is if you have a hill of freshly fallen snow and you were to sled down that hill, you will create a little groove in the snow. And you continue to sled down the hill and down the hill, and eventually that groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper. This is the way the mind works. 2,000 years before neuroscientists found that neurons that fire together wired together, the ancient yogis were meditating and recognizing that every thought we have increases the propensity of having that thought again. The mind is a great habituation machine. It has its patterns, and those deeply rooted and deeply imprinted patterns that exist in the unconscious or subconscious mind create the same repetitive thoughts in the conscious mind. This is our samskaras. So a deep samskara is always wanting, always thinking that what we have is not sufficient and we need to get what we don't have. That's what Nisargadatta Maharaj says. You spend all your time wanting what you don't have and not wanting what you do have. Why not reverse it? Think about how happy that you could be. Think about how happy you could be if all day you wanted what you have and didn't want what you don't have. What would it look like to shift your perspective in such a way and to live from this place? So we notice how the grass is always greener, how we lament on what we don't have and don't appreciate what we do have. And this is because desire is a samskara. So, for example, if you really, really want something and you spend a lot of time trying to attain that thing, if you want a big house or a fancy new car that's very expensive, and you spend a year or a year and a half or 2 years working very hard, thinking, I want this, I want this, I want this, and you finally get it. You have just spent a year of your life cultivating a wanting mind, not cultivating a mind that is content with what it has. So, one of the deepest samskaras we have is the endless desiring mind that always wants more and more and more and is never satisfied with what it has. And this is why what we think, we become. Because every thought we have creates a deeper impression in the mind, creates a deeper samskara, creates a deeper pattern that eventually is all that we think. So the Dhammapada put it this way: all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a person speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows them, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox and draws the carriage. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a person speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows them like a shadow that never leaves them. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. This idea is so important in the Dhammapada, already a very thin text. It's repeated twice. Our thoughts create our reality. What we think, we become. If you intentionally cultivate feelings and thoughts of love, kindness, and compassion, it will increase the likelihood of loving, kind, and compassionate thoughts naturally arising for you in the future. So, one metaphor is the hill of freshly laid snow. And I always think it's interesting how often the stream of conscious thought is actually water. The metaphor of water is used to describe the constant churning, the constant stream of thoughts that continue to arise and arise and arise. The general idea is that if we try to stop the water, if we put our hand in that rushing stream and try to stop the water, it will only create more turbulence. Our efforts, specific efforts to calm and relax the mind, only create more turbulence. So when Patanjali says yoga chitta vritti nirodha, the chitta is the activities of the mind and the vritti is the turbulence. And our task, our yogic path is to restrain, is to cessate the turbulence of the mind. And we can continue this metaphor of water and realize that water creates grooves wherever it flows. And Lao Tzu knew this as well in the Tao Te Ching when he wrote, water is fluid, soft, and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. So it's such an interesting juxtaposition that water is one of the softest things there is, one of the most yielding things there is. You put your hand in a bowl of water, and the water will make space for your hand. It's as yielding as it gets. And yet, it can create the Grand Canyon, the biggest canyon in the world. And many valleys and canyons in the world are created by the flowing of water. And that's because that's our samskaras. Every thought we have creates a groove in our own mind. And eventually, it's really easy to fall into the groove. If we have a strong negative thought pattern, even though we might set an intention to live from a place of love, it's so easy for the mind to get distracted and fall into that deep groove. And then we're just stuck in habitual negative ways of thinking. So we have to free ourselves from this. On the yogic path, freedom and liberation and awakening, they're all synonymous. They all mean the same thing. They're all fingers pointing to the same moon. We need to awaken out of this trance, out of these habitual ways of thinking. And a huge way that we do that is by not getting so attached to our thoughts, not getting so hooked onto our thoughts. Because as we sit in meditation, as we notice our thoughts, thoughts will come up. You need to check your email. You need to check social media. You have to wash the dishes. You have to do this. Thoughts will arrive and they'll say, I'm real. I'm real. Think me. Think me. And it's up to you to notice the thoughts, recognize it, but not entertain it. So there's a saying, you can't stop the birds of sadness from flying over your head, but you can keep them from nesting in your hair. That's by Sharon Creech. So we can't stop the thoughts from happening. We can't stop our emotions from flowing, but we can stop getting so attached to them. And the opposite of neurons that fire together, wire together, is use it or lose it. If you don't entertain the negative thought patterns, they will lessen their hold on you. Albert Schweitzer says, there are two parts to a happy life, good health and a poor memory. And this was my theme in many of my yoga classes this past week because I realized this is exactly what we do in our yoga. We create good health. This is one of the most fundamental tenets of yoga. We need a strong body and a healthy body for a strong and healthy mind. The two are not separate, and they never will be. You will not be able to find much calm in your meditation if your body is in pain, if your body is emaciated. We need a healthy and happy body to create a healthy and happy mind. So we have the good health piece. And it's not so much that we are cultivating a bad memory, but we are learning to let go. We are learning to release the past. We are learning not to get so caught up. Every day, we will have opportunities to get caught up. We will hit traffic on the way to work. And we either can notice the traffic and notice our anger arise and let it dissipate, or let it feed. Let it feed endless ruminative thoughts about how bad the traffic is, how mad you are, how unfortunate this world is to you. Thoughts can go on and on and on. The storylines can go on and on and on. But the quicker and sooner we are able to notice the mind as it gets caught and to not attach, not detach, not attach, and not get so hooked, a thought will pass and we can rest at peace. So there will be annoyances. There will be provocations in this world. We will encounter all sorts of things that we do not want. And those are all opportunities to wake up from the trance that keeps us stuck. So, as Shunryu Suzuki says, you leave the front door open, you allow the thoughts to come, and the back door open too. You don't let them stick around for too long. Another metaphor we use in meditation is thoughts will arrive like bubbles into your awareness, and we let them float. We touch them as light as a feather. We don't push away, we don't latch onto. Feather touching a bubble, we notice and let go, and notice and let go. And this non attachment will reduce the hold that our mental patternings have on us. And there's another very important interpretation of what we think we become. And this is what many refer to as manifestation, the power of thought to shape our reality. And manifestation work is not magical thinking. If magical thinking was real, there'd be a lot more lottery winners than there currently are. If just hoping and wishing and wanting something very, very hard made it happen in the external world, wow, things would be very different than they currently are. The way manifestation works is because what we think we become and our thoughts shape our reality, they also shape the information that we receive and integrate in order to process and understand what choices to make in a given situation. And those choices that we make will shape our future. So let's say you want to start a business and you think to yourself, I'm an excellent business person. I'm savvy. I'm also flexible. And I really think my business is going to succeed. So I'm going to try really hard at it. Well, your business is going to succeed. You're going to try really hard at it. If you think, I really want to start a business, but I'm not capable, I can't do it. Well, you're not going to start a business and there's not going to be any business. So you're not going to manifest the business that you want if you don't fully believe in yourself. And to another extent, the kind of in-between place of starting something because you know it's going to work and not starting something because you don't think it's going to work is whether you are open to the opportunities that life presents itself. So there's a saying, when a pickpocket sees a saint, they only see the saint's pockets. Your inner energy will affect the outer flow of your energy. So if you're looking for problems, the one who finds fault, if you're looking for problems, you'll find them. They're everywhere. They're to be found everywhere. And our beliefs can easily become self-defeating prophecies. If once we experience a setback, we think this is it. We fortune tell the experience and say this minor setback means this endeavor will never work out. So if you see the good in people, you will be friendly, loving, and compassionate to them. And guess what? If you're friendly, loving, and compassionate to people, they will be friendly, loving, and compassionate back. So, in other words, just as what we think that we become is our thoughts will feed into our actions, and our actions will change our external environment in such a way that it will feed back into the same thought that we are believing. So Gandhi put it this way: your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So we can absolutely work with our mind in this life. This is one of the most promising teachings we can find from the yogic texts. You can work with your mind. You can change your mind to live more fully from a place of love, happiness, kindness, and compassion. And if we were to take this one step further and tie this into yogic cosmology and yogic metaphysics, you will be reincarnated. At the end of this life, all the mental habits that you have cultivated you will carry on into your next life. You will not be able to bring with you your material wealth, no matter how much money you have gained and how many cars and houses and other forms of material wealth. I hate to break it to you, but you can't take that with you into your next life. The only thing that you can take with you and you will take with you is your good habits and your bad habits. So, from this perspective, your entire life is a preparation for death. As Trigram Trungpa again would say, if you don't understand death, life can be very confusing. At the moment of death, your samskaras will decide what happens to you in your next life, your latent impressions of the mind. Again, we can turn to the Dhammapada. Let go of that which is in front, let go of that which is already gone, and let go of the in between. With a heart that takes hold nowhere, you arrive at the place beyond all suffering. So, in the non attachment to our thoughts, we let go of the past, we let go of the future, and we let go of the in between. Now, you might think, where am I going to rest? What ground am I going to find myself on? Some say there is no ground, but there is one, the ground of being, the ground of your own true essence, the space of the heart, the source of all that is. The mind creates the abyss, but the heart crosses it. The mind divides up this world, but the heart makes it whole. So we let go of the past, the future, and the in between and find a heart that takes hold nowhere. And we don't need the heart to take hold anywhere because it is us. It is inside of us. Wherever you go, you will find your heart. People say home is where the heart is. Where is your heart? In your body. So we can make our heart our home. Wherever we go in this world, we can be at home. We can make our bodies our home and our heart our home. We can relax into the heart space. This is the only place where we need to stay rooted. The past, the future, the trials and tribulations of the present, they will be impermanent, but your heart will always be here. The mind will create the abyss, but the heart is what crosses it. So there's nowhere to go. Your heart is right here. It's always at your center, where the circumference is everywhere and the center is right here. Matt Licata put it this way: the specific forms that love takes in our life arise and pass in time, for this is the way of form. Time is the great dissolver, but love itself is that which never comes and goes. We never know what form love will choose to take in the future, for there is no love in the future. Love is only now. But it can take a cleansing of perception to see through the veil, behind the scenes where love is always at work, giving birth to one of its forms, one of its children, while recycling and dissolving another. If we become too fused with a specific form, we believe we need love to take a particular person or way of finding purpose and meaning. Our heart will inevitably break when love obliterates that form for something new, which it always will. This shattering is the great gift of form, evidence not of error and mistake, but of wholeness and profound compassion. This disillusion and reorganization is a special kind of grace that the conventional mind struggles to know, but the heart knows. The body knows. Mm. The mind, the mind can only know so much. It is limited. But the heart is limitless. As we drop out of the mind and into the heart, into this ground of being, of beingness, the sense of our own being, that is where we will find wholeness and fullness and the connection that love offers. In this world, nothing lasts. Everything is impermanent. Everything is changing all the time. There's nothing in this external world we can rely on for lasting peace and happiness. It will change. Our external life will change. But the true essence of our internal life will remain the same. Our heart is always there. And the heart is what truly knows. We can make our heart our home. We can make our body our home. In the last few minutes, let's turn within. As we notice our body, smile at the body. As we notice our breath, smile at the breath. As we notice our heart, smile at the heart and notice how it smiles back. If you want a happy and joyful future, it begins by cultivating a happy and joyful present moment. Take a few more moments to smile, an inward smile, to lay down that foundation of joy. And that ground of being in me, the eternal love and light within my heart, honors and recognizes the eternal love and light in your heart. Namaste.